there's a lot of hype for Anthony Richardson, especially already pulling away from Gardner Minshew. But what I found very weird in this draft, I wasn't surprised when Will Levis fell. He was a big faller, dropping 6 spots after he fell into the second round. But CJ Stroud went number 2 overall, as expected, dropped 6 spots. Bryce Young went number 1 overall, as expected, dropped 4 spots. Can you? What's your theory behind that? These stud guys going 1, 2 as expected and falling in the draft anyways. People would have should have been projecting him to these spots, you know?
I think it's the same mentality of why the NBA would draft middle school players if they could. It's because the more they find out about them, the more likely they are to find something that makes them not perfect. Now they're, instead of this dream of this player up in the clouds, now he's on a team with players around him that have faults. And they're going to have to work around those faults if they're going to be successful in the NFL.
A boat's a boat, but the mystery box can be anything. It could even be a boat. And I think that's what it kind of sums up what you're saying because Stroud and Young, or sorry, Young and Stroud were 8, 9, and Anthony Richardson was 15. They all basically went as expected to where they would go. Richardson's a top 10 pick, and Young and Stroud have fallen out of the top 10. And it's just weird to see that, you know. But hey, they might be values now because I think a lot of it is reactionary, where people saw what Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Justin Fields could do, and I think they're overreacting to the rushing floor with Anthony Richardson because people forget. As great as this is, these guys are. Fields didn't take off as a rookie, and arguably Richardson's a more raw prospect. So I know I talked him up a couple of weeks ago with Strange Steichen in there for the coach as a head coach of the Colts, but Rome wasn't built in a day. So I could see Richardson getting overdrafted this year, disappointing a lot of people, and then coming on next year because he is a project. And even if he has the rushing floor, he might not throw the ball enough. It could be interesting roller coaster ride. So I think he's as overvalued as he might be this year. They're drafting him at his ceiling. They're drafting him as a top 10 redraft quarterback now, despite not being a great passer at Florida. Meanwhile, these other guys are good passers at Alabama and Ohio State and played against good competition, but maybe they just don't see him as the floor. But either way, I'll take a flyer on those guys if they fall to me.
Well, a lot of it, again, depends on your scoring system. If you've got one of those brutal scoring systems where passing stats basically don't matter and running stats do, then yeah, I can see it. But the kinds of leagues that you and I like to play in, Brian, emphasize passing statistics a little bit more.
Yeah.
And in those kinds of leagues, then I think it gives more quarterbacks more viability.
Yeah, so you hear that, guys, in the FFFL. Feel free to fade Anthony Richardson so Joe and I can pick him up in the middle of the draft. No, I'm kidding.
So while we attempt to manipulate the realities of our league mates, that's all the time that we have today for the Midwest Football Podcast. So thank you for joining us.
This is Joe Smith from the Midwest Football Podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It all helps us grow our show. Look for our full show, too, anywhere you find podcasts. Links below.